Hey, welcome back, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Star Wars Minute. It's your daily podcast in which we analyze, scrutinize, and celebrate The Last Jedi one laser-tastic minute at a time. I'm Alex Robinson from alexrobinson.fun.
I'm Pete the Retailer from PeteTheRetailer.com.
Do we say our names here? Insert names?
Wow, Dan. Wow.
Do you say your name?
Dan McCoy of the Flophouse Podcast.
Hey, I'm Stuart Wellington of the Flophouse Podcast.
And this is Eliot Kalen, also of the Flophouse Podcast and also the Maniac of New York comic book on comic book store shelves now. Thank you.
I can't believe we got the whole Flophouse gang back together again. This is like a Beatles reunion with a Martin and Lewis reunion. It's thanks for coming back, guys.
Wow.
If the Beatles finally reunited with Martin and Lewis.
It would sound a little bit like this.
We had less trouble
Jude!
scheduling.
That's what it would sound like.
We had less trouble scheduling this than we do our normal episodes.
That's true. That's very true. Yeah.
The beauty was you just caught us unawares.
It was like 1, 2, 3 podcast, and you were like, oh okay. Set up your mics.
We're doing this. Jokes.
Yeah, Dan didn't have time to schedule a wine sip and draw schedule or something.
Color Me Mine appointment was.
I don't know what life you think I'm living, but it sounds good.
Well, we're here to talk about what else, Pete?
No, I was trying to think of what's the one. It's like Color Me Mine, but it's with wine and
Color Me Bad.
Color Me Bad. There you go. I do want to sex you up.
Oh boy. Let's talk about minute 131 of The Last Jedi instead. Minute 131 starts with Kylo Ren ordering every gun they have to fire on that man. That man. And it ends a minute later.
A Jedi. Oh.
Ends a minute later with Hux asking Kylo Ren if he thinks they got him. Sort of almost like a little mini movie in 1 minute, like
right.
Guns fire, punchline, and out of there.
There you go.
It's great.
This would have been a little short, like a Pixar short or something attached to the movie.
Sure.
Yeah, this is a minute where I was like, obviously love the first 2 Star Wars movies, but I was looking at the shot of all of these walkers lined up against the sunset on this planet, blasting red dust from the ground. I'm like, is this the prettiest Star Wars movie? It may be the prettiest looking one, because it is gorgeous, I think, this minute.
It really is.
Yeah. And it's got those big gorilla boys blasting out of their faces. I love it.
Yeah, because they were like, we can't have AT-ATs that look like the old AT-ATs, which look like camels. We got to have ones that look like gorillas, because because I assume this is the problem with the Empire, because you don't actually see a lot in the movies of why the Empire is bad or why the New Order is bad. But or First Order, sorry, New Order is amazing. But why the First Order is bad, and it seems to be just because I guess they take all the resources of the galaxy and are constantly putting them into like new hardware. Like because every year they're like, the new AT-AT models are out. They look like tapirs this year.
They're job creators, dude. They're just fueling the economy.
Exactly.
Someone else is like, we have hovering technology. Why do you keep doing these things with big long legs that walk around?
Because they look awesome.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think of other scary animal. Like you could do like a rhino, but then it seems like it would shoot like up in the air instead of straight ahead.
Tall, smiley legs on a rhino is very. I mean, like Salvador Dali would paint it like that, but it would look a little silly, right? But yeah, the horn would shoot in the wrong direction, right? If you're shooting from the horn.
Yeah, I mean, they could make a walker that looks like a hippo, and people would be like, "That's not that impressive," and then they'd check Wikipedia and be like, "How many people were killed by hippos?"
Exactly.
The deadliest walker of all.
Yeah. That's Lieutenant actually would have to explain that in the movie.
I do like the idea that he was the salesman, the arms dealer. It's like, hippopotamus is actually the most deadliest animal. Like, really? Oh yeah, check this. He's got a brochure, a pamphlet, all the whole deal.
Yeah.
Check out how hungry they are. I have a box about that.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things I love about this minute is that Kylo Ren gets his Arthur clenched fist moment where he's like, he gets to become a meme, and it's really great. It makes me happy.
And they crank up the leather creaking sound on that glove.
Oh yeah.
Like, you know he's wearing a leather glove. There's, to the point that the guy piloting the AT-AT looks back and is like, was that a glove? Like, were you just clenching so hard that I heard the glove even through this weird helmet that I'm wearing?
Did somebody put on an ASMR tape?
Plus, it must be like it being like a tank. There must be like electric grindy sounds all over the place in that thing. But that was he's got.
Well, unless it's
Those
isolated,
force
it's like,
powers.
it's lots of soundproofing, and it's just you don't want to hear the kind of the outside what's going on.
Yeah.
As much. You just want to, rely on your sensors and stuff like that. So I'm sure it's totally soundproofed and you can't hear anything going on outside except for just that really soft, quiet sound of leather stretching.
Have you guys ever bought leather gloves and hoped that it would give you that same leather stretching sound effect, and you're always disappointed? Like, every time I pick up a sword, I think it's going to make that cool like whetstone sound.
Yeah.
I feel like any leather glove that would give you that sound is thicker than my personal needs would require.
And too tight. The thing is, with consumer leather gloves, they're thin and a little big enough that like you can comfortably move your fingers around. But with this, no, it's not about comfort. It's about look and sound. Because that's you got to hand it to evil people in both movies and real life. They get that it's about uniforms that aren't necessarily comfortable, but look super cool and make cool sounds. Like, that's the thing evil has fully figured out, that uniforms, even if they're uncomfortable, look cool and make cool sounds.
There's something cool about being slightly constricted.
Yeah, I mean,
okay, we're learning something about you, I think.
Well, because you look at like what the rebels are wearing in this scene, because the rebels they're watching as Luke Skywalker's just being super blasted from all these AT-ATs. I know he's not going to be okay at the end, because they hit him with so many lasers. I haven't watched the next minute yet.
You can't hit Perry enough times.
Yeah, but you look at what the rebels are wearing, and it's like a lot of like loose tunics, open necks, a lot of like kind of earth tones.
They're space hippies.
Yeah,
it's like thrift store sweaters that just have like a little rebellion symbol screen printed on them. They're totally
yeah, or they're wearing
an
like
iron-on.
the bright orange flight suit with the gray like glowy vest, where you're like, orange? Are you a crash test dummy? Like, are you working for the city? Like picking up the garbage? Why'd you go with orange? What's the deal?
All the rebel pilots are actually all been sentenced to community service, and this is what they have to do as part of their thing.
When they were going down the Death Star trench in A New Hope, they had these sharp prongs attached to the X-wing so they could just skewer garbage along the trench and pull it in. Yeah, just to pick up the litter.
You know, I realize I shouldn't have been surprised by Stuart's love of constrictive clothes, considering that I tweeted out a photo last night because we were recording our own podcast in the same place for the first time, and he was wearing these jorts, and the level of excitement about these thigh-hugging jorts online was high.
Wait, a level of excitement from me?
No, well, I mean, like
spectators.
Yeah, spectators.
probably
were
both.
like,
Probably both.
Yeah.
Now, there's a lot of emotion. Not to get away from Stuart's particular need to feel things close to him. It's a sensory thing. We can all respect that.
Thank you.
This is a big emotional scene, because who among us has not wanted to unleash an armada battery of laser cannons on a father figure that we feel failed us at some point in our life? And so Kylo Ren is just kind of living the dream here.
Failed us in such a way that we killed our actual father earlier.
Right.
Yeah, well, I remember
This guy really hates fathers.
Yeah.
when I went to summer camp, and we went on our camp out, and I woke up to find that my counselor was in my tent about to kill me because he thought I would become Darth Vader. That I was like, you know what? Eventually, I'm going to have to get revenge on this guy. And it hasn't happened yet, because I don't yet have a gorilla tank that shoots lasers. But
there was
someday.
that Yelp review you left that was pretty scathing.
I just said,
Do not send your kids here.
Don't send your kid to this camp, because the counselor, although great most of the time, thinks you're going to become Darth Vader, which is...
So wait, Yelp existed when you went to camp?
No, this was last year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was a grown-up Star Wars camp.
You pretended like you were a kid. You put on a beanie with a propeller.
Right.
Big
Popular Star
lollipop.
Wars costume.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a little bit like, like getting revenge on essentially, like, when is the last time they saw each other in person? It's got to be 10 years or so, right?
They haven't seen each other since the fight. At
I don't think they've seen
Atlanta,
each other
right?
since
at that
Right.
Jedi retreat.
So it literally is. Yeah, it's like summer camp counselor, or like your like middle school teacher. It's like, oh, I hated that guy, and I'm like, I'm gonna blow him up. And it's,
Wouldn't the sharpest revenge though been if like Kylo Ren pretended he didn't recognize him? Be like, oh, I don't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, big timed him.
Just give
Yeah.
him, yeah, because the sharpest revenge is living well, which Kylo Ren is kind of doing. I mean, he's the head of this this evil space army. He's made it, but
He's got imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Right.
At this point, he's also like given up his new like mask like style choice. Like he no longer is into masks. He's into showing off that punum.
Stuart, longtime Flophouse listeners will know that Stuart, though not Jewish, loves the word punum and tries to use it as much as possible. Here's the thing about I'm disappointed. I'm glad you guys called us in because I wanted to be part of Last Jedi at some point. This might have couldn't have been earlier because I honestly love this movie. I know a lot of Star Wars fans don't for various reasons. I won't judge their motives, many of them bad. But I love this movie, but I have to admit, by the time we get to this scene, I'm like, shouldn't this movie be over now? And it makes me realize, as much as I love Star Wars movies, except for maybe Empire Strikes Back, it's hard for me to think of a Star Wars movie that has a satisfying ending where I don't think it's like a little too long. Where it's just like not a little like going on. Even the original one, that Death Star trench run, the first time I showed it to my son, I was like, I forgot this goes on for a long time. They're making a lot of passes at that Death Star, and it's
Long time.
It goes on for a long time. And there's just do you guys ever feel that way, or am I alone in this? That Star Wars movies they're like a little too stuffed for me, a little too long.
I
think you're
disagree
asking
on
the
the
wrong
first
people.
one.
Yeah, I'm talking to the wrong people. Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
Because the
all
trench
way
run is
too
my
long.
favorite part of pretty much anything. So I'm biased that way.
Yeah.
But yes,
I mean, this does feel like maybe a second climax after like the almost running into the big
casino
gun
planet
thing. Yeah, the casino
it
planet.
feels like the casino planet's within. Well, you have like the big sacrifice and that
Yeah.
huge white soundless space explosion, and after that, it's like we rented the hall a little bit longer. I guess we can have another dance. Yeah, like,
I mean, I love this stuff with astral projecting Luke. I find
spoiler.
the stuff about like where they're like stuck in the cave. I mean, like it's not that much, but like stuff stuck in the cave with like the crystal wolves or whatever. Like I'm like, I don't care. But I know that's a
These
small
fantastic
thing.
creatures bore me.
Well,
I know where to find them.
look, if I'm gonna argue with silly creatures in Star Wars, like number one, we'll be here a long time. Number two, what kind of like I'm a no fun person. But the like as much as I love this movie, it's I think my third favorite. I am like, what are those crystal animals? Like, what's their deal? Like, how do they live? What?
Well, there's a certain. I mean, clearly they eat the salt on the ground, but there is a certain thing
Yeah.
where
Who
at a
doesn't?
certain yeah,
Check
at a certain point-
Wikipedia,
I
I
mean,
mean-
elephants do it. They just walk into caves and lick salt. That's what they do. But there's a certain point in the newer Star Wars movies where it feels like no matter how original they are, and this movie has so many original ideas in it. But that scene, I wish I could have done with you guys, where Luke is milking that Dr. Seuss creature on the cliff, where I saw it and I was like, I didn't know how badly I needed this moment in my life, and I'm so glad that I have it now. Like that, it feels like it always doubles back to like something that we've kind of seen in these movies before, and the fact that they go to a planet that looks kind of like Hoth, but it's salt instead of snow, and there's AT-ATs, but they look like gorillas instead of camels, and there's always a scene at the end, like someone's in the, as we'll see in a later minute, someone's in the Millennium Falcon looking for the characters, like kind of at the end of Empire Strikes Back when they're swooping back to get Luke, and it's like, I don't know, what do you think it is about Star Wars that it feels like by the end that we kind of are doubling back onto? Is that a deliberate, like, we're playing off the same themes thing, like the people who try to convince me to love the prequels will tell me, or is it that at a certain point they run out of gas? What do you guys think? I open up to discussion. I'm okay with being proven wrong. I don't know how I feel about it.
Well, some of it in this one, I think. Well, let me pick it apart in two pieces. One, people have complained at us for bringing this up because the behind the scenes timeline is cloudy, and I'm not sure who was doing what when it came to the
it was
production
so long
of these
ago.
movies.
Nobody can remember.
Exactly.
It's impossible to know. The fog of war and all that.
I think
Fog
there's
of
some
Star Wars.
handwritten notes at some point, but it seems like originally they had talked to Rian Johnson about doing this movie entirely himself, and then providing at least an outline or a first draft for the finale for episode 9. Like he was going to be more involved in that when it was Colin Trevorrow who was going to be handling that.
Right. I completely forgot that Colin Trevorrow was supposed to do
Book of
9.
Henry.
Yeah, Book of Henry Superstar. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's possible that he had a lot of kind of full arc ideas that he tried to squeeze into one movie once he was kind of realizing that wasn't going to work out that way. So it's like so many, he found so many things, he found so much information, he put it all in, overkill.
So this is kind of like the Hunger Dogs, Jack Kirby's Hunger Dogs of Star Wars, where it's like you have this long saga you've been planning, the Fourth World Saga. Look, turns out you're going to finish it in a 48-page perfect bound prestige format thing. Just try to squeeze it all in there. And he's like, okay, I had 10 years worth of stories. Well, sorry, you got to do it in 48 pages. Okay, I'll do my best. And this is going to be a 3-cigarer. And he just shoved those cigars in his mouth and smoked them down as he drew the Hunger Dogs.
All three at once?
Yeah, because that's how he gets his power. He's like Popeye, but with cigars.
I like it's like a assembly line. They move across his mouth. Like he takes one out, puts it in, then the other two move across, and he takes it out, puts it in the other side.
Yeah, and Powerhouse plays. Exactly.
But as to the themes, the recurring themes, I think that was partially, it's they want to, it's funny because some people will say that's. This strays too far from some of the Star Wars familiarity, some of the Star Wars themes, and it does in some of the details. But you do still have a lot of those same kind of thematic beats, and so it's an interesting to see where they stuck with it and where they kind of branched off from it. And so I don't have a strong opinion either way. I'm just saying it's interesting.
It is interesting, yes.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's a little strange. I mean, I know that this is the one that they asked us to be on to talk about the minute, Eliot. So I'm not taking you down for bringing it up on Last Jedi. I understand that we have to talk about Last Jedi because we're here for Last Jedi. But to me, this is the weird movie to talk about, returning to the well, because there is stuff yes, this is evocative of Hoth. Although I think that in a unique and
evocative.
in a unique and beautiful way, but it is also the one of the new movies that I think most brings new stuff to the series, new ideas, which is why, of course, the people maybe who you were talking about before who have bad reasons for liking it don't or for not liking it don't like it because they're oh, it's not my Star Wars, and I don't know, Audrey had never seen Star Wars. She saw it all of it last year for the first time. And she liked the first two, and she liked Jedi okay, but this is the one that she sort of actually stood up and paid attention to, and I feel I
thought you were going to say applauded. I was
well, I think that for someone
it makes
who
more sense than standing up to watch a whole movie.
Someone who
didn't pay attention to a movie while sitting.
Someone who didn't grow up with it and have that part of it. It was more interesting to her that this movie muddies the waters a little. It's okay, Star Wars, as much as I love it, is, and some of it's about redemption. There's a gray area there about is the bad guy bad, is the good guy, but for the most part, it's a pretty simple good and bad story in a pretty naive way, especially when you're talking about Star Wars. Whereas this one is
the bad guy literally wears black and the good guy wears
exactly
black. That's yeah.
But here it's there are a lot of people caught up in this, and they a lot of people just turning their heads, looking away. There's I don't know. This is one that sort of went off in its own direction, and then everyone got mad, and they're like, "Oh, bring back J.J. Abrams!" And J.J. Abrams made, in my opinion, a terrible movie. But
I don't think you're fully understanding what I'm saying, which is that it's because this movie has so much new to bring to Star Wars that it really throws into sharp relief at the end how much it feels like we're being shunted. It's like a shunted back to this kind of old-fashioned idea of Star Wars that I've seen so much at this point in The Last Jedi where I'm and the fact that this movie ends on a note, we're not going to do that minute, but it ends on a note of I'm going to hint at a much more expanded universe and expanded possibilities for this series. And then, of course, the last movie, as if it chops off that arm and just tightens the tourniquet around it so it can never grow back again. So it's just it just makes me wonder why at the end it kind of circles back when you'd think that a movie like this should start with a scene like this that's very reminiscent of the old movies, and then continue to move forward in a new direction. But like you guys are saying, it's not like Rian Johnson sat down and they said, you have carte blanche, make your vision. Like he's working for a big corporation that has a brand that it's upholding. So who knows what kinds of conversations went on behind the scenes about what was going to happen in this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I think Force Awakens, like, we can all understand why they kind of leaned very hard on the nostalgia thing, because after the prequels, people were like, Star Wars, can it be good again? So by leaning so heavily on the nostalgia and, like, so much, things that look like it's like a remix of Star Wars, Force Awakens. You just kind of shuffle everybody around and the roles are slightly different. And but I think and I feel like Rian Johnson was, like you said, might have been reacting against that to try to, like, say, forget all that stuff. Moving forward, it's gonna be different stuff. But obviously, like you said, J.J. Abrams, not quite. And I guess maybe based on that controversial reaction, they said, okay, well, let's go back to the nostalgia. I think the Star Wars is such a weird thing because, like, a certain generation, it was around when we were kids. And then there was that long lapse, and I think that's kind of what resulted in this ultimately, like, toxic nostalgia. It's like, if they've been making Star Wars things all along and rebooting them just like every other franchise, it wouldn't be the same. It would be very different. It wouldn't be like, although, if you think about it, like Batman movies, they really keep going back to that whole parents were murdered on the like every time they do Batman, we see his origin again and again.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's
well, it's a little bit like comparing it to superhero comics is a good way to think about it, I guess, where it's like every now and then they're like, guess what? Ray Palmer's not there anymore. There's a new Adam. We've got a new Adam, and he's a new guy. And people are like, that's not the Adam who was there when I was a kid. Kill this new one and bring back the old one. That's not the Flash I grew up with. That's not. And I guess in Marvel Comics, they've been able to deal with that by just having 10 different Spider-Men, So it's like, instead of having one replace the old one, it's just we got a whole bunch of new ones. But people you have this cycle, I guess, of like people growing up with a thing as a fan, it changing or not being there. Then they're old enough that now they can control their dollars because they're a grown-up and demanding the thing that they wanted as a kid. And then if it changes a little bit, they're like, that's not what... the same way that... And I don't know if it's our generation is the first one that is unable to let go of that stuff, where I have a kid I grew up with. We were high school friends, and we don't talk that much anymore. But he'll still send me the trailers for, like, like Transformers or stuff like that when they're released. Or, like, if an article is like Thundercats movie coming out, he'll send me that link, and I'm like, I don't need a Thundercats movie. Like, I have no reason in my life to want to go back to the Thundercats. Like, all right, okay. Like, even the Ninja Turtles, which I genuinely loved as a child. Like, I don't need new Ninja Turtles material, but maybe it's our generation's the first one where it's like we can't let go of childish things.
Well, I couldn't figure out if that was me or if that was society. I was in,
you are society.
The combo platter.
I was in the theater, I think, to see one of the Batman movies, and there were trailers for a new G.I. Joe movie, a new Transformers movie, and something else that
Pound Puppies.
And Pound Puppies, exactly. And I was like, or maybe a Star Trek. I don't remember. But basically, I was sitting there and I was like, well, like, these are all things that I would have flipped for when I was like 12, and I'm not excited about any of them, including the one that I'm here to see. Like, what happened? Is it me? Am I old and cranky, or was it like? Is it?
I just can't believe that Pound Puppies, like, gritty exploitation in jail movie just didn't fly.
Well, it was the prequel of how they got to the Pound and what life was like at the Pound before they were rescued. And it was a little rough for people. This gritty reimagining of the Pound Puppies. Yeah.
It does. I don't like that the Pound was all political now. Like, the original one, the Pound was just like a thing, and now it's all like, oh, that's symbolic of Antifa.
It was, black and white. You had good dogs and you had bad dogs.
Yeah, exactly.
It does feel like
all dogs go to heaven. That's important.
Except even in that movie, some of the dogs go to hell. That movie lies to you right in the title.
Wow.
Yeah.
I guess I got to stop killing dogs.
Stuart.
Stuart horrible.
No,
Stuart put his hand over his mouth because he loves animals so much. Like, he can't even believe that he made that joke.
I know.
He's so mad at himself.
I feel like the
Learning
people
a lot about
who
Stuart.
now are allowed to make movies, like, are in the position to make the decisions, are like kids who grew up And like when their kids are like, ooh, when I'm in charge, I'm gonna do whatever I want. And then like it actually happened. And in the meantime, they didn't learn like, no, we shouldn't eat candy for dinner, like just candy. And they're like, all the movies, candy, just all the candy I wanted as a kid, we're having it.
Yeah,
And
I
then
could do
they're
it. When you're a kid, you're like, I'm gonna eat cereal for breakfast and play video games as my job. And your parents
Yeah.
are like, okay. And now as adults, we're like, we're doing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it is not to,
Why do
not
I
to
feel
bring-
so
not to-
gross?
Yeah, and not to bring comics into it, but like in the 60s, you had like Roy Thomas started writing the Marvel comics, and he grew up with the comics when he was younger. So that's what he's like, time for the All Winners squad to come back, like time for the Golden Age Human Torch to show up, because these are all the characters I loved as a kid, and we're all Roy Thomas now, I guess is what I'm saying. Yeah.
Exactly.
What I think is interesting is like with the more modern franchises, you don't see the same level of toxic fandom, I guess. Like, look at like the Fast and Furious franchise. Like, the fans are like, can't wait to see it. And then if it's not as good, they're like, wasn't as good as the others, but that's cool. Whatever. They went into space.
But wait till 20 years from now when they're doing the Fast and Furious reboot, and
After
they're
there's a
"Wait
lull
minute. Yeah,
where
this is
everybody
supposed
just
to be about-"
has Fast and Furious novelizations and expanded universe materials, the comics to read for like 10 years.
And they've got to decide what's canon, what's not, and they're like, this is supposed to be about family. If it's not about family, it's not real FF stuff, you know.
When Dom was drinking a Corona Light, I feel like that was an attempt to change my childhood.
So one last question about this minute. Why does I almost Hux stops them from firing. He's like, that's enough.
Right.
And is it because he's like embarrassed for Kylo Ren? That he's kind of like, oh my dude, this is not a cool look. Like everyone is cringing at you right now.
Oh my dude.
I think so. I think in that moment he is, and this is this
easily
before
my my favorite character of these movies, except for Babu Frick and the chimp who rebuilds his helmet.
Yeah,
Oh,
Sith
they're the
chimp.
best.
I love Hux because he's such like a scummy little jerk. But like, there's something like, I don't know, like we're all Hux a little bit.
Well, Hux at that moment is Mick Mulvaney, where he's like, I'm working for a crazy person. I've got to try to rein him in so people don't realize how crazy he is, because this is my ticket to power, and I have lashed myself to an insane man. And so now he's like, enough. But also because they're probably going to run out of lasers at a certain point. He's like, we're here to stop the rebels.
What?
We can't waste all our lasers on this one dude. You know?
What, like, do they... is there confirmation? Do they have like little shells of laser?
Well, it's
or
energy,
finite.
right? Like you don't have nonstop energy on one of these things. You got to run out of laser blasts.
maybe
eventually.
they're solar powered.
Okay, maybe the evil First Order is way ahead of everyone else in terms of green fueled military hardware. Sure.
Well, in the last movie, they totally drained all the energy from a sun, so they're clearly
that's-
very good at
Oh,
that.
That's like
true.
hyper
Thanks,
solar
Alex.
power.
Actually, yeah. I mean, and that's what they've been warning us about. Solar power destroy our sun. I don't think so.
Yeah,
Anyway,
like those windmills.
yeah. But I think he is trying to. He realizes that Kylo Ren looks like a madman here, and he's trying to like limit the damage that all the First Order people watching this live streamed are not like, he's really shooting that one guy with a lot of lasers.
I mean, also this is
It's
his
like if we do that
job.
for every guy.
It's
for
gonna take
free,
a
you
while.
know.
I mean, luckily there's like 10 rebels inside. I don't know that they know that, but you
Right.
know.
I feel like too, like if I was at work and my boss was like shooting someone for that long, he's just like, God, come on, like, can we wrap this up? Like, we got let's just kill the other rebels, get back to our family. Like, we're gonna sit here and blast this guy for another half an hour.
Well,
It's like- and he can see that Kylo Ren is also in a state of he's having like a some kind of rage paralysis
Yes.
that's affecting him. Yeah.
that'll come up later in the week too. Where there's a kind of a moment where I was like, oh wow, that they really should have just stopped shooting Luke Skywalker before. I think that's later this week, but it is also, you're right. Hux is he needs to make a show of it essentially to be like, oh, come on, look at this guy. Isn't this guy crazy? Like he's nowhere near as good of a leader as I am, right? Like to
Come on,
politicking
everybody,
amongst
Hux.
the First Order.
Come on, pick up some Hux bucks. Come on, Hux, everybody.
He's giving out little. It's like, I'm sorry that happened. Here, if you ever need anything, just let me know.
Well, I guess that'll, unless anyone else has anything else for minute 131, we can wrap this one up. We got more Luke versus the First Order the rest of the week. So, can you guys possibly return tomorrow? I know it was like a 1 in a million shot getting all three of you in one episode. You think it'll happen again?
I think there's a strong chance.
All right, well.
I'll run
Unlikely,
with
but
this
that's
bit.
okay.
I'll see what I can
Sure.
do.
While they are doing that, I want you, dear listeners, to go to StarWarsMinute.com/Patreon. Become a supporter of the show. You can get bonus episodes on Saturday and Sunday. You can get art prints by me. You can get you can take advantage of our sports packages. Now that sports are opening up again, go see a game with Pete the Retailer. It's
right.
one of the rewards. Take advantage of it.
Do it.
And then when you're done doing that, you can join us tomorrow for another Star Wars Minute.
Star Wars Minute.
Minute.